Home and abroad, the Hindu editorial on PM Modi's G7 commitment to protect freedom of speech, the Hindu. Geopolitics trumped economics at the annual summit of the world's most industrialized countries, as the G7 is known, at the German resort of Schloss Elmau, a summit Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended, along with other special invitees from Argentina, Indonesia, Senegal, and South Africa. While the G7 countries did have some economic initiatives on their agenda, including the launch of a $600 billion US-led Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment (PGII) commitments on fighting climate change, funding renewable energy changes, mitigating inflation and managing the continued global crisis over the COVID-19 pandemic, it was clear that most of the deliberations took aim at the twin challenges seen from Russia and China. The 28-page communiqué alternated between outlining the challenges to the international order that emanate from Moscow's war in Ukraine, including tightening sanctions, the impact on energy markets, and cybersecurity threats, and Beijing's expansive maritime claims, rights violations, and unsustainable debt creation in lower-income countries. The G7 countries issued separate statements on support for Ukraine, food security, and a climate club. In addition, the G7 and special invitee partner countries issued a statement on resilient democracies committing to free and fair elections, protecting freedom of expression, and gender empowerment. The message for Russia and China was made even more pointed at the subsequent NATO summit in Madrid, where the US's transatlantic allies invited the US's trans-Pacific allies to discuss security challenges. Given the targeted nature of the G7 outcomes, India had its work cut out as a balancing power. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made it clear that it is the developing world that needs the most support, including to weather the knock-on effects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The government sought to distance itself from the PGII, pitched as a G7 counter to China's Belt and Road Initiative, and made it evident that India had only signed on to the statements on resilient democracies and a just energy transition, and not the many statements castigating Russia and China, much like Mr. Modi had, at the earlier BRICS summit, stayed away from President Putin and President Xi's stringent criticism of the West. On the global stage, the G7 outcomes mean New Delhi will have to continue to walk a tightrope between these two blocs that are growing more polarized and inimical towards each other. On the Indian stage, Mr. Modi's G7 commitments will be scrutinized for his pronouncements on democracy, and his written assurance that his government will protect civic society, freedoms of expression and thought, conscience, religion or belief, which are facing challenges within the country. Fallout of